When you scroll through a sea of coffee makers on Amazon, the pictures can be deceiving. The glossy shots of a massive stainless steel Airpot look impressive, but the moment it lands on your counter, you start wondering if you've just bought a kitchen centerpiece you'll never actually use. I've seen that happen to a lot of people who need a reliable way to serve coffee to a crowd and end up with a machine that either takes too long to heat, is a nightmare to clean, or just doesn't fit their space. That's why I wanted to dig into the Bunn Axiom Twin APS Airpot, a 15-gallon brewer that promises commercial-grade speed and volume, and lay out the things you should know before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the environment where this brewer actually shines. Imagine a bustling office break room that serves 80 people 3 times a day, a small CAF that runs a morning rush, or a community center hosting a wedding brunch. In those scenarios, you need coffee that's hot and ready on demand, without someone having to stand over a single-serve machine for half an hour. The Axiom Twin APS is built for exactly that kind of volume. It can brew up to 15 gallons in a single cycle, which translates to roughly 188-ounce cups. If you're the kind of person who constantly refills a small pot and watches the line grow, that capacity is a real time saver. Now, the twin, part of the name, isn't about 2 separate brews. It refers to the dual heating plates that keep the coffee at the right temperature while the pot sits on the warmer. That design does a decent job of maintaining that coffee shop heat for an hour or so, which means you can set it up in the morning, let it finish, and still have hot coffee when the first wave of employees arrives. For anyone who values that set-it-and-forget-it convenience, the heating system is a solid win. But the convenience comes with a few trade-offs you need to weigh. First, the machine is heavy. The package weight pushes close to 100 pounds before you even unpack it. That's not something you can just slide out of the box onto a kitchen counter without at least 2 people helping. If you're in a tiny office kitchen with limited floor space, the footprint of the unit plus the 15-gallon Airpot can dominate the whole room. I've heard from folks who tried to fit it under a standard countertop and realized they'd need to rearrange the whole layout just to accommodate the size. So if you're looking for a compact solution for a single-person desk, this isn't it. Power is another consideration. The brewer comes with a dual voltage option, 120V for standard US outlets and 240V for faster heating cycles. In my research, the 240V model can bring the water up to brewing temperature in roughly half the time of the 120V version. That can be a game changer for a busy CAF that needs to turn over a large batch every hour. However, many office buildings only have 120V circuits available, which means you might be stuck with longer heat-up times unless you bring in an electrician to install a dedicated line. If you're not comfortable with that extra step, you'll have to accept a slower brew. Let's get into the brewing process itself. Bunn's speed brew technology is well known in the industry for delivering coffee quickly without sacrificing flavor. The Axiom Twin APS uses a pre-infusion pump that pushes water through the coffee grounds at a consistent pressure, producing a clean, balanced cup. In practice, you'll notice the coffee comes out hot, around 190 F, and it maintains that temperature as it flows into the Airpot. For a large group, that means no one gets a lukewarm cup midway through the serving line. If you're particular about taste, you'll want to use fresh, medium roast beans and a proper grind. The machine isn't a miracle worker for stale coffee. Cleaning is where many commercial brewers trip people up, and the Axiom Twin APS is no exception. The Airpot itself can be detached and washed, but the internal brew chamber and the heating plates require a bit of elbow grease. Bunn supplies a cleaning solution, but you have to run a full cleaning cycle every few days if you're brewing multiple batches per day. For a small office that only uses the machine twice a day, that might feel excessive. On the flip side, if you're already accustomed to regular coffee machine maintenance in a CAF setting, the routine isn't any more demanding than what you're used to. Another hidden cost is the water source. The unit draws directly from a standard water line or a large reservoir you attach. If your building's water pressure is low, you'll notice longer brew cycles and sometimes uneven extraction. Some reviewers have mentioned having to install a small pump to boost pressure, which adds another expense and a bit of installation hassle. So before you order, check your water.